Welcome to the Elevate podcast, brought to you by the Registered Master Builders, where we're all about building better businesses. Each week we explore the ideas and practices that help us get the best from our businesses, our teams and ourselves. I'm your host, Ryan Castle, along with Dr. Mike Ashby. We talk to experts, advocates and business owners in the construction industry to share their knowledge, insights and experiences to help you build a better business and enjoy a better life. In addition to the podcast, the Registered Master Builders Elevate is also an online learning platform hosting courses, programs and content that help construction business owners and their staff to build a better business. Now let the business building begin. I'm joined by Milena Cooper. Milena, welcome along.
Thank you.
Now, Milena is our head of digital here, but we bring not her digital expertise to this podcast, but more her insights around health, wellness, well-being, what it means to be a highly efficient operating human, I think is a good description.
Yes.
Yeah, sound good?
Something I'm really passionate about.
One of our fundamental principles, which we've talked a number of times on the podcast, is around health, family and work. And this is something we talk to our clients about. It's something we live by every single day ourselves. And it really is that you really have to look after your health first. And when we talk health, we talk about physical health and your mental wealth as well. And then looking after family and relationships and what's going on. And then comes the work. Because what happens when you try to do it the other way around, Milena?
It all falls over in a big steaming heap.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and look, we come across many members that go, "Hey, look, I'm just really busy at work right now. I'll do all the work stuff, and then when I'm finished, then I'll do some exercise, or I'll improve my diet, or I'll work on my relationships, or whatever it is." The other element that came up for me around, I guess, motivation for this podcast episode was I'd just been to my own GP, my doctor, for a check. Unfortunately, I've reached that age where you have to regularly go to your doctor to make sure everything's still working and functioning properly. And pleased to say that all of my results were awesome. He told me I've got a less than 1% chance of stroke or heart attack in the next 5 years.
Wow.
I was like, I'll take those odds.
Yeah.
That's quite good. So I think this focus on health is working. But I did, for some of you that might be on video, you might see a dot on my face. I've just had a little biopsy, little skin issue that's being dealt with. So I was really, I think it's a good point for us to continually come back, remind our audience, remind ourselves the importance around the health. Now, recently we've had a article that we've read in the office, and it's generated some pretty good discussion.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce the article, Milena?
So it was called We've Reached Peak Wellness. And I think everybody kind of went, peak wellness? You know, we talk a lot about wellness, but what does that really mean? Because there's so many things, so many diets, supplements. It's something new every day about what we should be doing to take care of ourselves better. And the list seems endless of all the tricks and traps, really, that we can get caught in.
I shouldn't be trying to drop a dress size by Saturday? Is that not the idea?
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. So look, the essence of this article, and we'll put a link to the article, it was done by the Outside group. It's called We've Reached Peak Wellness, and most of it's nonsense. There are so many things we're bombarded with now. In the very opening of the article, they talk about you can, now in New York, and you evidently go to a lounge where they'll hook you up to a IV, intravenous, and supposedly pump detox into your body, and you kind of know things are getting a bit off the rails when things are going that extreme. I think IVs are good for medical emergencies. If you're trying to do just general health and wellness around those things, not so much. So really they looked at some different areas in this, and I thought it'd be some good discussion points for us to look at. Of course, most of what the commercial market is telling us that we need to do this, and we need to eat that, and we need this supplement, and we need that vitamin, and we need. Actually, not a lot of evidence around a lot of it, whether it actually works or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So fundamentally, what's our first one we're gonna kick off with?
So physical, and I think this is a great one because there are so many different ways that we're being told to exercise and get moving, and usually says this way is better than that way. And if you're this type of person or you're that, and so you spend a lot of time following the trend or trying to figure out what your best way is. And I think we get caught in that. We really get caught in trying to do it the best way.
And I'm really motivated for that one thing. I've got an event coming up where I want to look great, or summer's coming, I need to get into the togs, or whatever's going on. And actually we need to stop doing this kind of binge approach to health and start thinking about how do we live a healthy lifestyle overall. Yeah. So Milena, you've been, or had an interest, I would guess, in whole foods, and tell us a bit about your journey there.
There are so many different kinds of diets, and I guess the number one thing is, if diets, they might work, but diets don't work if you don't make a lasting lifestyle change. And often people have a diet mentality, which is take something away, and then they feel deprived, and they go back once that deprivation ends. They hit the dress size that they wanted, they go back to their old habit, and it doesn't sustain. So that deprivation mentality of diet is a total fail. And I think the opposite of that is...
Let's go, hands up on the podcast, who's tried something for the fad, for the few weeks, for the whatever, might have got some results and then know that it got worse afterwards.
Yeah.
I think we've all done that.
So what a better way to think about, that I think about it now, is about what can I do, what can I add that sustains me. And one of those things is really just around whole food. And you don't need diets, and you don't need supplements. You don't need a whole lot of complicated things telling you what to eat when and not to eat then. It's really about, if you take the time to make a plan, go grocery shop and make real food, vegetables, eat fruit, eat a range of things. So you need protein, you need fat, you need a bit of good carbs. There's things like sugar and caffeine and other bits that you don't need a lot of, but it's not going to kill you to eat them either. So
do not try and take away my daily coffee. Things will get ugly.
That's right. Moderation still is key. But when you start eating foods that fuel your body, whole foods, it makes all the difference. And my personal experience actually is huge for this, because I was having all kinds of health issues. I went to the doctor, and they wanted to give me prescriptions. And I said, I don't think that feels like the right thing for me. So I went and found a book called Woman Code, so specific for women, and it was all about how you can fuel your body and exercise and de-stress and do a whole lot of things that didn't require supplements or anything like that, but about how you can change your habits to better fuel yourself, and those symptoms went away. So I didn't need the prescription to fix that. I just needed to be more mindful about what I was doing and what I was eating and how I was thinking. We'll come to that too. And it changed that for me.
And I think a couple of really simple examples of things we can do that don't require really even a lot of effort, time or money, is when you go to the supermarket, try to shop around the outside. We know that the fresh fruit, the lean meats, those kind of things, they tend to be on the outside of the supermarket. Stay away from the aisles as much as you can, because it's where all the processed rubbish is. So do that. When it comes to your physical health, look, just move. A round movement. If you just make a conscious effort to move every day, you're on a winner. There's definitely some things we can add in, and if you'd like some more detail and insight on this, in a previous podcast we interviewed Darren Ellis, who's the head of CrossFit New Zealand, and he talked a lot about diet and exercise and what you can do. But really just move every day is a good basis. You don't need expensive gym equipment. I'm in a YouTube yoga phase, which look, I've got a yoga mat. It's my single piece of equipment. I can hook up literally thousands of yoga episodes on YouTube, and that's helping with some of my movement each day, in addition to the other things that I'm doing. A really great blog, Mark's Daily Apple, if you're interested in more health and wellness. He talks about really 4 fundamental exercises, which is, well, get your heart rate up, and then for a bit of resistance training, sit-ups, press-ups, squats and chin-ups are basically all you need. You will do it. You don't need expensive gym equipment. You don't, whatever, to get those going. So pretty simple stuff. If you can just get in, take on that approach of, I'm just going to eat a bit healthier. I'm going to eat a bit more whole foods, less processed, and I'm going to move every day. It's a great place to be.
Yeah. And I think one of the things in the moving every day is make the time to do it and then make it a habit. If you don't schedule it in, you will never get to it. So you have to plan the time. And the more you can say, on these days, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for a walk, or whatever it is that you enjoy, whatever that feels good for you. And that's an important thing to keeping the habit. If it feels good, it doesn't matter what it is, do it, and then make the time and just say, this is what I do on these days, because then you're so much more likely to do it. If you have someone else who will do it with you, even better. Yep. But making it just the default of what you do.
And we find public accountability works. Here we have a team meeting every week. We declare our personal goals of what we're working on, and then actually having the group accountability of going, I've just done a 30 days of yoga one, and that runs through my mind. I know I'm going to have to front up and talk to the team and say whether I did it or not. It seems like a small thing, but it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Next up in this article, Peak Wellness, they talked about the importance of emotion. Give us your insights there, Milena.
What you resist persists. So the more that you try to hold it all in and think that it's all fine and I'm dealing and I'm coping and nothing, and I'm just going to keep going and stuff it down, it's going to find another way to bubble up in your life. And so talking about your feelings is critical. And it's one of the things that I think we, and men and women, can be socialized to, women more often talk about their feelings, but men often don't. And it's critical. And in relationships that you have, it's okay. And with your children, you teach them to talk about feelings, and having feelings is okay and it's valid. And so the more you can do that, the more you're going to feel calmer and feel happier and connected with people around you. And another thing that often happens is we're afraid to talk about our feelings because we might feel like people don't want to hear that, or it's scary. It's to be that open. But Brene Brown is really strong in this area about when you have the courage to be open, it lets people see you as you are and they can connect with you so much more, and it really deepens and strengthens your relationship. And so you take topics that you're trying to stuff down and you put light on them, and suddenly they're not so big and terrible anymore.
And the courage piece, I think, also comes being willing to ask people about their feelings. Yes, we need courage to talk about our own. And there's a brilliant initiative on the go at the moment called Mates in Construction. We have horrendous stats in the construction industry in New Zealand. It has the highest suicide rate of any industry. About one person a week is taking their life in the construction industry. And it's certainly not a stat that we would be proud of. There's a new initiative called Mates in Construction, and it's the core of it is really going, actually just have a chat with someone. If you see someone who looks like they're challenged, that they're struggling with life, that maybe they're being a bit overwhelmed, just be prepared to go and have a they call it a yarn because it's good construction talk. Go and have a yarn with them. Go and say, hey mate, it looks like maybe life's a bit tough for you at the moment. Tell me about what's going on. You need courage to go and have that conversation. The other person has to, of course, have courage to open up, but actually be prepared to go and talk to others about their feelings as well. I think is a really important step.
Absolutely.
Okay. As humans, we're very social beings, right? It's how we've designed. It's where we feel connection. It gives us a lot of what's going on. We know that social connection is really important in the workplace and our relationships outside of work. The Brigham Young University, they studied 300,000 people, so pretty good sample size, I felt. And they found you're actually at a higher risk of dying from loneliness than you are of obesity. It's such strong evidence that we are social beings, and if you're missing social connection in your life, it's one of the best things you could do for wellness is find a way to connect with others and be involved.
Absolutely, and I think it's completely overlooked in terms of what medicine talks about for dealing mostly with issues after they present. But in terms of wellness, it's about trying to look at what the symptoms are and address the underlying issue. And loneliness is a huge one, and it's actually fueled even worse by our use of social media and things like that,
totally.
where we have this perception of being connected to people, but it's not a true connection. It's not a deep understanding and that you get when you're talking to somebody and learning to put yourself out there a little bit, to make a friend. And the give and take that happens, and that doesn't happen in social. So we feel like we're being more social, but we're actually just behind the wall of safety and looking into other people's lives.
And I think the real challenge is that we're looking at a filtered version of people's lives. I think we all do this, right? Like, I don't put fat photos up on Instagram. I wasn't looking too good in that one. So we're constantly presenting this filtered view of what our life is really like. And yes, people might be aware of some of the interesting activities or adventures I'm on, but those people are not connecting with me as an individual. So it's when we get into a conversation and have real discussions about what's going on, about feelings, about aspirations, about what's inspiring us, what's challenging us. That's where social connection really happens.
Yeah. And it can be really simple things, like it's asking a question and listening for the answer. I like to do it in the grocery store because I think, look at these tellers, they're sitting here. Yeah. Time and time again, swiping people's groceries. And most people don't even look them in the eyes. They never actually acknowledge them. And I think, that's pretty lonely. And so I couldn't do that job. So I try to make an effort to say hi to them and ask how their day was. And, if there's even a tiny little connection. And it's funny.
We've all felt it, right? When someone takes an interest in us, a stranger takes an interest in us, it makes us feel good. Yep.
And there's lots of opportunities you'll find in your day that you can connect with people you might never see again, but it gives you a boost, and actually you've given them a boost too.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a real grandpa here. But I think the smartphone has been seriously the worst invention in the world ever for social connection. Everywhere I go now, every waiting room, every queue, every bus stop, every cafe, all I see is people sitting with their heads in their phone. It's bad when individuals sitting by themselves are doing it, but when I see, couples or families and they're all sitting there, there's no social interaction, they're all heads in their phone, I'm like, this is not going to deliver the social interaction that we actually crave.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. So there we go. There's my granddad rant over for this one.
Put your phone away.
And, for 15 minutes, put your phone away. Yeah. Have a real conversation. Love my smartphone as well. Allows me to do a million things. It's great, but actually stopping for 15 minutes. Okay. Cognitive was the next thing they talked about, and the essence here was really engaging in something that you're passionate about. And look, I've always found this a really challenging question. Do you do something you're passionate about because that'll fuel you for your work, or do you do work so you can create time and income to go and do the things you're passionate about? I still don't feel like I truly know the answer. I feel very fortunate in the work that I do feel passionate about it, that changing the lives of others is something we really do get to do. So I feel very fortunate that I get to do that, but I'm not sure everyone has that opportunity in their life, or their career and their passions maybe not so well aligned. Do you have a view?
I think some people are kind of, called to a purpose, and some people find their purpose. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you have to know it up front. And I think often we put a lot of emphasis on what you should figure it out and you should know, and you don't actually have to know.
And even you should figure it out when you're 17. What's your career going to be? You should choose that now. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty hard.
So I think the one of the points that they make in the article actually isn't that you have to know, isn't so much about you might not know, but give yourself the opportunity to learn and to grow, because you may or may not know if you like it, but try. And that's how you learn. And so for some people, their work might be in line with the things that they've always had an interest in, and maybe it's a direction for you to explore if you feel like your work isn't in line with what you're interested in, and you want to kind of redirect if you're not getting a connection and a sense of purpose and meaning from that. For other people, it might be, well, my work actually fulfills me in the way that I want to, but I have a real passion outside of work that I explore, and it's my hobby.
Yes.
And it's where I get a deep sense of relaxation and connection with people outside of that, and it gives me fuel and energy. So I think a lot of that connection to purpose is more about learning, trying new things, and discovering what gives you energy.
So connection to purpose can be being dressed up in a Buzzy Bee costume?
Well, so being in a Buzzy Bee costume was actually being part of the school's fair committee. And for me, I've always enjoyed the teaching and learning. I've always enjoyed being connected with my children's school, with their teachers, and that was a way to give back to the school. And I ended up in a Buzzy Bee talking to the whole school assembly, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So.
And just when you talk about it, I can see the energy that it brings to you, right? Because it feels like you were doing good. It was social connection with other people. There was purpose involved. There was good outcomes. It wasn't about doing something for you. It was about doing something for others. And just when you talk about it, I can see that energy in there. It's amazing. A couple of other things they talked about in the article was spiritual connection. I think the spiritual landscape globally has changed a lot. The most common religion in the world now is no religion, but it's interesting to look at the effect that religion has had, regardless of which one you talk about, and how it has given people a sense of connection and purpose. So if you're in the no religion space or you don't feel affiliated, then finding something that does bring you purpose. Really, I think the big statement is something that's bigger than yourself. The constant pursuit of happiness through experience or alcohol or whatever that might be, actually taking some time out to think about what's here, what's bigger than me, how can I contribute. And that could be as simple as taking a few minutes for me to sit on the beach and just look around me and go, wow, how amazing is this? Look at the sky, look at the waves, look at the sand. That brings me a real sense of awe, and I think we can connect at a spiritual level with those kind of things.
Yeah. So the last point in the article is about the environment, and I think we all have a heightened sense of the environment and the impact on us, and the impact we have on the environment. And so it's a lot about thinking not just about our sense of the world, but the bigger sense of the world and being connected. And to your point, when you sit and you enjoy a sunset, for me, I've just recently got into the garden again, and digging around in the dirt with me and the kids really grounds me, makes me feel really good. And there's lots of science again that backs up just being in the outdoors just shifts your mood, shifts your sense of self, and helps you to feel good. So not just the piece of being aware of the environment, like we're all now very conscious of not using single plastic bags,
sure,
but being in the environment and appreciating the environment you're in.
And at a immediate level, does your the way your house is set up, is that a nice livable space? The way you have your desk set up at work, is that a nice livable space? Are you feeling like you're constantly frustrated because you've got an exceptionally long, frustrating commute to work every day? So thinking about those aspects of your environment, going, how could I change? We've got a really interesting podcast guest coming up, a gentleman called Ryan Gizzy. Must be a good bloke 'cause he's called Ryan. And he is the Chief People Officer at Xero, and they are big fans of flexible working. So they're going, why would you sit in traffic for an hour or 2 hours every day to make it to the office for this amount of time? Let's think about value. Let's think about how we can deliver the right outcomes for the business, but also the right outcomes for the people. So thinking about your environment in that context, I think is really important as well. So just bring it back to the principle that we started off with. We truly believe that health, family family work in that order is vital. Understanding, don't believe the hype. It's probably a goodie. Worry less about what the ads are throwing at us. Think about moving a bit more, connecting with people, thinking about our spiritual aspect, having some purpose. These things are actually what brings us joy and actually leads to wellness overall for us. Is that a fair summary?
I think that's a great summary.
Another one of our mantras is progress, not perfection. So there might have been several things here that we talked about that you're like, oh, I could do that and I should make a change there, and don't try and change them all at once. Look, if you're not doing any physical activity, start off with a 15-minute walk every day. Job done.
Yep.
Sound good?
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us today. We'd love to hear your comments. What are the things that work for you around wellness? What keeps your body and your mind in shape? How are you connected to your passions? Feed that back to us, and we will put a link to the article that we have been referencing in the show notes so you can read in detail if you would like. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.